Welcome to Bamfordrose, and it's another forum chat. In this week's forum chat, we pick up some comments from a question of the week a couple of weeks ago that was talking about UK garages, whether it's franchised or independent, for Aston Martins. Before we get into that, as always, it really helps us if you can subscribe to our channel and comment on what you hear today. So here's a thumbnail of that video. It was question of the week 132, and it was reviewing Aston garages in the UK. There were quite a few really good comments in that video, so let's just go through a few of them. Now, whilst it's not the most informative comment, it's one of the ones that chimed with me the most, and I'm going to start with that. It's from Jim Goodwin, and he says, "How to kill a dream stone dead." So I think the point that he was trying to make there was that, you know, buying your Aston is a dream, and obviously it is. It's an aspirational purchase, and every moment of that ownership experience, whether you're driving it or whether it's parked up in your garage and you're admiring it, should be a moment of joy. Everything we do at Bamfordrose is to make it a moment of joy. And what we're trying to kill dead are cars that give people a nightmare rather than a dream. So what can you take from that video to help you have the dream instead of a nightmare? Well, you'd probably learn that buying at the bottom end of the market for a V8 or DB9 means that you're probably going to need to see the inside of a workshop to get the car on the straight and narrow. And if that is the case, then you really better eye up the independent before you enter into purchasing a car at that bottom end of the market. If you didn't do your homework on purchasing the car, if you then found you needed to see the inside of a workshop, if you didn't know you're independent and you had to go to a dealer, then all of a sudden that dream car purchase would turn into a nightmare. So rather than killing the dream dead, what this channel is all about is informing everyone about every eventuality that could happen with these cars. And lack of garage availability is one consideration. If you're the type of owner where that's not important because you do a lot of DIY yourself, then that video really isn't for you. If you're the type of owner that needs a garage to do everything, and maybe the car that you purchase needs a little bit of work doing to it, then the content of that video is relevant to you. Next comment is from J2. And it says, "You have quite a few more that Mike is omitting to recognised." And then he lists a few. Well, if you reviewed that video, I quite clearly said it depends who you count. Now, I'm not going to mention any garage that I've had first-hand experience of, so that would be a car coming here with a problem that was with a particular garage that they couldn't fix. I said in that video, if the garage has a laptop and they know how to use it. I've had cars brought to me here from several independents with really simple faults on that could have been easily solved with AMDS. Now, we fix those problems, don't make a song or dance about it. But then when we're around the coffee machine and we're all chatting inside the workshop, and you think, well, you know, couldn't they really have fixed that themselves? Why couldn't they have just done what we simply did? And then there are some independents that have claimed to offer performance upgrades. Maybe they've fitted some exhaust kit, they've made a hash of the ECU remap. A car has come here with a drivability problem, you know, it's stuttering or whatever is the fault with the car. And with a remap that we do, the car is then fixed and driving happily. So all the garages that I did mention, I know have had quite good feedback and do good work. The garages I didn't mention are garages that I wouldn't take my own Aston to. Here's a comment from Duncan Elliott. Apparently there's a garage that's got some ex-main dealer guys. For the purposes of legal clarity, there's a full stop at the end of that, and my next sentence now has got nothing to do with the previous sentence. We once went to do a pre-purchase inspection on a car. Now, to figure out if it's harbouring any electronic problems, what we do is a little trick, which is we plug the diagnostic equipment in, and as you would expect, there are no fault codes. Then we generate one. This is easily done by pulling off the throttle body connector. That obviously causes a fault code. And then when you've got a fault code present, it records something called a freeze frame. So a freeze frame is a load of pre-programmed data that the engine management system records, which is in an effort to identify why the fault code happened in the first place. You know, there's road speed, temperatures, coolant, air, all that sort of thing. You know, big long list of data. In that data is a line which says when the fault codes were previously reset. It's not a date, but it tells you how many cold start and warm-ups the car has done since the codes were last reset. So we pull this little trick on pre-purchase inspection to see if the vendor is obviously harbouring something. Said car, the vendor didn't want us to go out for a road test on. Ooh, insurance, do you know what you're doing? Handling a performance car, which was all bluff to disguise the fact that if you take it out for a drive, it would ping a code on the trans. Then we see examples of rear subframes. Now the correct thing to do on these cars, take them out, shot blast, zinc plate, powder coat. But some establishments think it's okay to paint the sections that you can see. It doesn't matter that corrosion is happening on the parts that you can't see or get to, and charge quite a princely sum for doing this, which is certainly, 30% the way to doing a refurb. So I'm certainly not going to give the big up to garages like that. I did say those comments weren't linked to the previous picture, didn't I? Hi, you can read Andrew Robson's comment here, saying that there is a very good independent dealer with a wealth of knowledge, only a few miles from Gaydon. Yeah, thanks for your comment there. Again, full stop. And what I say next is obviously not linked to the previous comments. I did say in that video, has a laptop and knows how to use it. I recall a time when one garage owner was having a stay at Her Majesty's pleasure, trying to disguise that and get on with the job. The blokes were running around the garage like headless chickens. I got a phone call saying, hey, do you fit door modules to cars? The answer was yes, obviously. Then the question was, well, how do you code them to the car? Because you need the software for the configuration file from the factory, and the dealer network won't give that out to you on a memory stick when you buy a door module. The answer was yes. But if you've got AMDS and you know how to use it, you can get yourself around that problem and solve it. How do you do that? Was the question that followed. Well, I'm certainly not going to tell you if you don't know the answer, but I can reprogram your car for you. Guy on the end of the phone says, can you? Well, that's crackers, because we have to drive to the nearest dealer every time we fit door modules to cars to get them to code the software. Of course, because we're an independent, the dealer doesn't really help us out, makes us hang around in the reception all day, takes ages to do the job, meaning that by the time we get back to the workshop, we've wasted the best part of a day. You're pretty close to us. Couldn't you do that job for us instead? Yes, was the answer. Well, why don't we do it, is the response. It's probably because your boss, who's enjoying his stay at His Majesty's pleasure, wouldn't want to lose face asking another independent to do a job that they couldn't do, so go to dealer instead. How can I recommend garages where jobs like that will involve a drive of the car to dealer because the garage can't 100% perform activities within the inside of their own workshop? I did say those comments weren't linked to the previous picture, didn't I? There's a really great comment from Alan Phillips, obviously in the US, and he says that it's easier in the US with their right to repair laws for independent workshops to get hold of the diagnostic equipment required to plug in and help fix these cars. Yeah, so that is totally correct. I remember when I was working at Aston, the Legal and Cert department had a project which was to create a AMDS Lite. So this was what it says on the tin, a lighter version. So you could plug into the car with AMDS Lite, you could interrogate all modules, you could reset fault codes, you could perhaps reset modules, put them through learn procedures like the trans module if you want to erase clutch statistics and put it through a learn. But what AMDS Lite didn't have was all the configuration files. So if you wanted to reflash a body module, door modules, roof module, anything like that, that would need a trip to the dealer. So basically AMDS Lite was a glorified fault code checker that was very competent at its job. So that could turn off the MIL lamp, the malfunction indicator lamp, if it had a problem, because in the US, a reason why the laws force automakers to provide the diagnostic kit is because if you are 200 miles away from a franchise dealer and you get the emissions error light on, well, that car's an error state. It needs fixing as soon as possible before it causes damage to the environment. So you need to drive it to a close by garage, and a close by garage that is fully equipped or equipped as necessary to be an independent has a bit of kit that it can plug in and sort your problem out and turn that polluting error state car into a car that has no problems. So that was available for the US, AMDS Lite. Now I don't know any independent that's got AMDS Lite in the UK, and I haven't seen a kit for years. For the new cars that need AMDS 2, which is a more online system, and it's what I referred to in the previous videos, that the Mercedes era cars will need. They will need AMDS 2. These cars at the moment, unless you use a generic Bosch bit of kit, are going to be really difficult to look after, even in the UK independent network. Now in the UK, there might not be too many independents that really want this kit. Because they've got the kit for, say, the Gen 1 Gaydon era car, DB7 Vanquish V8, all the way up to Mercedes era car. And as we know, there are thousands of them, and they needn't look to the future. But quite possibly in the States, especially if a few more cars were sold there, there will be independents that want that kit, because there are cars that need to be fixed in the marketplace. Which leads on to the comment Mr. Ed made about not choosing a DBX because he didn't really want to get involved with the Aston dealer network. So yeah, quite obviously, if buyers of new cars get a whiff that the cars are a bit tricky to look after, then it might affect their purchasing decision. So it is in the factory's interest to make sure that many garages can work on the cars and ownership experience is happy and wonderful rather than having problems. If someone from Aston wants to dump AMDS 2 on my doorstep, then I'll welcomely receive it. If you want to send me a link of where to purchase it from a dealer and the cost of it, I'd welcomely receive that too. But I somehow don't think that will come, which does mean after 5 years, when the service packages run out, which those Gen 2 Mercedes era cars were sold against, how are they going to be looked after? And will a greater number of them start to make rumblings on forums that they can't book into independents because the independents haven't got the kit to look after them? Now onto a comment from Robert Hattin that Bamfordrose creates a network of almost like franchise garages. Yeah, that's a really good idea. Some consultancy like service where I can plug into a car remotely through someone else's kit, a Zoom call to look around the car. That's actually a really good idea. In isolation, it does happen sometimes where a car, you know, let's say it's one of our UK customers that's got a holiday home, whatever, in France or Spain. They've got a problem with their car. They've taken it into the local dealer where they are. The dealer can't fix it, and they end up calling us to help the dealer fix it for them. USA and Toronto is unfortunately a little bit too far afield for me to think about setting up in, but Europe definitely is on the radar. Now perhaps they're cracking sales outlets, but I don't think the garage competency level in, say, dealerships in Spain is that great. In my book, there's probably about 500 to 1,000 cars in Spain, and then you've got the reach into southern France and Portugal. So I'm certainly keeping an eye on the Spain situation, because if sales of new cars weren't that great and that dealer network shrunk, then there's quite a good opportunity in Spain. But all ideas like yours, Robert, are well received. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed that comments section roundup, and we'll see you on the next forum chat.